Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of fluid mechanics and hydraulic machines. In the last class we solved some problems on Newton's law of viscosity. In this class also we will be taking one more problem on Newton's law of viscosity, and we will go to the next concepts next after this. So I'll read out the question. Two plane surfaces are 2.4 centimeter apart. The space between them is filled with glycerine. What force is required to drag a very thin plate of surface area 0.5 square meter between the large plane surfaces at a speed of 0.6 meters per second? If there are two cases, the thin plate is in the middle of plane surfaces and the thin plate is at a distance of 0.8 centimeter from one of the plane surfaces. Take dynamic viscosity of glycerine is equals to 8.1 into 10 power minus 1 Newton second per meter square. Okay, so there are two plane surfaces which are separated at a distance of 2.4 centimeters. So let's assume these two plane surfaces, okay, and these two plane surfaces are separated by a distance of 2.4 centimeter. So the distance between these two plane surfaces is 2.4 centimeter. So the space between them is filled with glycerine. So this space between them is completely filled with glycerine. Okay, what force is required to drag a very thin plate of surface area 0.5 square meter between the large plane surfaces at a speed of 0.6 meter per second? Okay, so there are two plane surfaces which are separated by a distance of 2.4 centimeter, and the space between them is filled with glycerine. And if you have a plate between this, okay, let's take, there is a plate in this, okay, and what force is required to move this plate, okay, when this space is filled with glycerine which has an oil which has a dynamic viscosity of 8.1 into 10 power minus 1 Newton second per meter square. Okay, so there are two cases. In the first case, the thin plate is in the middle of plane surfaces. Okay, so this thin plate is in the middle. So middle means 2.4. So this distance will be 1.2 and this distance will be 1.2. Okay, so this is the first case. In the second case, the thin plate is at a distance of 0.8 centimeter from one of the plane surfaces. So the dynamic viscosity of oil has been given in the question. Okay, so you have to find out how much force is required to move this plate with a velocity of 0.6 meters per second. So there are two resistance forces acting on this. One is the resistance provided by the glycerine which is above the plate, and one is the resistance provided by the glycerine below the plate. So this depends on the stickiness of this glycerine. The stickiness value has been indicated in the question, which is given by the dynamic viscosity of the glycerine, which is 8.1 into 10 power minus 1 Newton second per meter square. Okay, so I will write down the given data here. So this distance is 2.4. Okay, so this 2.4 centimeter has been given. So 2.4 centimeter means 2.4 into 10 power minus 2 meters. Okay, so wherever you have centi, you can write down 10 power minus 2. Okay, so first case, how much force do I need to move this plate with a velocity of 0.6 meters per second? So let's say I am applying a force in this direction in order to move it with a velocity of 0.6 meters per second, but there are two resistive forces acting on this because this space is filled with glycerine. So glycerine is trying to stop this body. So there will be resistive forces acting because of glycerine on the upper side of the plate and on the lower side of the plate. Okay, so the total force which I need to move this plate should be equal to the resistive force acting above the plate and below the plate. So the resistive force because of glycerine below the plate, so let's say it's F1. Okay, so I have to find out F1 and F2. So when I add up both F1 and F2, I will get the total force F is equals to F1 plus F2. Okay, so in order to find out F1 and F2, I have Newton's law of viscosity. The formula of Newton's law of viscosity is tau is equals to mu into du by dy. Okay, so in case of F1, first finding F1, so I am writing F1 by area is equals to mu into du by dy1. What is the thickness below F1? How much fluid? How much is the resistive force of force F1? That depends on the glycerin which is below the plate. So that is dy1. So dy1. So this dy1 is this value, and this is dy2 value. Okay, so the value of F1 has to be calculated. So area has been given in the question, 0.5 square meters. So area is given as 0.5 square meters, means meter square. So 0.5 is equals to, mu value has been given in the question, 8.1 into 10 power minus 1 into du. Du value has also been given in the question, that is 0.6. So 0.6 into dy1. So dy1 is 1.2 centimeters. So centi means 10 power minus 2. So 1.2 into 10 power minus 2 meters. So from this you will get the value of F1. So 0.5 into 8.1 into 10 power minus 1 into 0.6 divided by 1.2 into 10 power minus 2. Okay, so once you substitute all these values in the calculator, you will get the value of F1. So similarly you can find out the value of F2. So finding F2, okay, so F2 is by using the same formula, shear stress is force by area, mu value as it is, because the fluid is same. This is the same fluid, glycerin is above the plate and below the plate, so the viscosity value is same. Du value, dy2 is again the same. So after you substitute this, you will get the value of F2. F2 area is again 0.5, mu has been given in the question, that is 8.1 into 10 power minus 1 into du is 0.6, and velocity dy2 is 1.2 into 10 power minus 2. So this F1 and F2 will be same in both the cases. So after you find out the values of F1 and F2, so the total force which I need to move this plate should be equal to F1 plus F2. So total F is equals to F1 plus F2. Okay, so this is the first case. Now in the second case, if this plate is not in the middle but it is at a distance of 0.8 centimeter from one of the plane surfaces. So I will take up the second case. Okay, there are two surfaces which is filled with glycerine. This glycerine has a stickiness of 8.1 into 10 power minus 1 Newton per meter square into second. Stickiness means the dynamic viscosity value of this. Okay, so this plate in the second case is at a distance of 0.8 centimeter from one of these surfaces. So let's say it is at a distance of what is the gap here? The gap here is 1.2 centimeter. So this plate is at a distance of 0.8. Let's say it is a distance of 0.8 from the bottom surface. You can take the top surface also, you will get the same value. So what will be this distance now? Total is 1.2. So this is 0.8. So this will be how much? Okay, let's take this as 0.8. So this will be how much? 0.4 centimeter. Okay, so now dy1, let's take this as dy2 value and this as dy1 value. So there are two resistive forces in this case, F. So here is your resistive force F2 and F1. The only difference you will have is, in place of dy1 you have to substitute this value, and dy2 you have to substitute this value. So after which you will be getting the values of F1 and F2. If you substitute in the if you add up F1 and F2, you will get the total force in the second case as well. Okay. So this was the last problem on Newton's law of viscosity. Okay, so the next topic is vapor pressure and cavitation. In order to understand vapor pressure, you have to understand what is vaporization. Vaporization is the change of phase from liquid to vapor. For instance, consider water at room temperature. Okay, so if we heat this water at 100 degrees centigrade, so this will start getting converted into vapor. So let's say initially the time is 0, and once it reaches 100 degrees centigrade, a part of this water will be converted into vapor. Now you have two phases here. One is a part of this is water and a part of this is vapor. Okay, at 100 degrees centigrade what will happen? Water starts converting into vapor. So in this case you have vapor and water. So after some time it will be completely vaporized, but initially slowly water will be converting into vapor. So at some time this vapor, when there is partial water and partial vapor in this vessel, so this vapor exerts a pressure on the surface of the liquid. So the pressure exerted by vapor on the liquid is called as vapor pressure. Now cavitation is the phenomenon of formation of bubbles in the low pressure zone and sudden bursting of these bubbles in a region of high pressure zone creates a cavity or gap. That process is called as cavitation. Okay, these questions are asked usually for short answers. You can refer the textbook. I have also given the notes for this. The next topic is surface tension and capillarity. Okay, for surface tension, consider one molecule inside water. Let's say there is one molecule inside water. So this molecule which is inside this water is surrounded by all water molecules. There are H2O molecules in all the 360-degree direction. So the molecular force of attraction for this molecule A is same in all the directions. Whereas if I consider one molecule on the surface of water, I am explaining about surface tension. So when I am considering one molecule on the surface of water, the lower part of this is surrounded by water molecules, but the upper part of this is exposed to air. So there is a state of inequilibrium acting on all the water molecules which is on the surface of water. So because of which these molecules tend to move. These are in a state of inequilibrium. So whenever a body is in inequilibrium, it tends to move in the direction of higher force. So this has a higher force in the downward direction. So it depends upon the densities or the specific weights of the liquid. Either this liquid will fall or drop. So what will happen in this case? Because all the molecules which are present on the surface are in a state of inequilibrium. So these molecules will try to move when you put a glass which has a very small diameter. Let's say the diameter of this glass should be less than or equal to 4 centimeter. So because these are in equilibrium, so this liquid will try to rise in this glass tube or it will fall. So this phenomena of rise or fall of liquid when you place a glass tube is called as capillarity. So this capillary rise can be calculated by using the formula H is equals to 4 sigma cos theta by rho GD, where sigma is called as surface tension, rho is density, g is acceleration due to gravity, d is the diameter of the glass tube which you have inserted, and t is the angle of contact. So angle of contact will be given in the question. These questions are usually asked in short answers. So angle of contact is usually given in the question. So if it's water, so theta for water is 0 degrees and theta for mercury is 128 degrees. Sometimes these two values will not be given, so you'll have to remember theta of water is 0 degrees and theta of mercury is 128 degrees approximately. Okay. So I'll start the new topic, which is the second part of unit 1, measurement of pressure. Measurement of pressure. This is the second part of unit 1. In unit 1 you have two parts. The first part of unit 1 is fluid properties, which we have done in the last classes, and the second part of unit 1 is measurement of pressure. So if a force is acting on some area, then we call it as pressure. So pressure is also a type of force, but this force acts on some area. So if a force F acts uniformly on area A, then pressure is given by P is equals to force by area. So force acting on some area, unit area, is called as pressure. So what will be the SI unit? So SI unit of pressure is, the SI unit of force is Newton, the SI unit of area is meter square. So this Newton per meter square is also called as Pascal. Okay. So this can be given in terms of kilo, mega or gigapascal. We know that kilo means 10 power 3, mega means 10 power 6 and giga means 10 power 9. Accordingly, you will have to convert while solving the problems. Okay. So a law has been given which is called as Pascal's law, which is very important as far as your final exam is concerned. So this law states that a fluid at rest exerts equal pressure in all directions. Okay, so a fluid at rest will exert equal pressure in all directions. That means a fluid at rest will exert the same pressure in x direction, y direction and z direction, and we will also prove this. So in order to prove this Pascal's law, let's take one element. So let us assume the shape of that element is of wedge shaped, a wedge shaped element. So on this element, so this is a wedge shaped element. So on this element, let's say pressure is acting in three directions. Px, the pressure acting in x direction, pressure acting in y direction, and pressure is acting in z direction. Let's assume the thickness of this element as 1. Okay. So this height is, let's say, dy, and this length is dx, and this is dz. Okay. But dz length is unity, so we can take this as 1. We have assumed it to be 1. So now what are the forces? Why I have taken wedge shape element? Because you can see three direction of forces: x force, y force and z force. Okay. So what is the formula of force now? Force is pressure into area. So I can write down the force acting on this side is pressure, and what is the area of this side? dy into 1. So dy into 1. Next, what is the pressure force acting at the bottom side of this? Pressure force is pressure into area. So pressure is Py, upward direction is y direction, and the area on which this is acting is dx into 1, so py into dx into 1. And the pressure force acting in z direction, so this is acting on this face, so the area of this face, let's say this length is ds, okay, so the area of this is ds into 1. So there are three pressure forces acting on this. Apart from this, you will have weight of this element. So what will be the weight of this element? Now what are the three forces? Force in x direction, force in y direction, force in z direction. So whenever Pascal's law has been given in the question, you have to remember the diagram. So there are three forces acting on this, and the weight will be acting at the center, and the direction of weight will be always vertically downwards. So weight of this element is negligible. Why? Because what is the formula of weight? Mass into acceleration due to gravity, mg. Mass can be given as density into volume. So density into volume into g, because density is mass by volume, so I can write down mass as density into volume. So density symbol is rho, this is volume into g, okay. So density as it is, okay. What is the volume of this element, complete element? So area of cross section into length. So what is the area of cross section? Area of this rectangle into length. So area of this rectangle is dy into dx, dy into dx into 1 into g. So this weight, the weight is very small and can be neglected because it has two differential terms. You can neglect the weight. So the only forces which are acting here is force in x direction, force in y direction, and force here in z direction. So if the inclination, if the angle of this is theta, so this perpendicular to this will make theta with horizontal. Inclined with vertical, so perpendicular to inclined with horizontal will be same. So you can resolve this force into two components. So one will be pz ds 1 cos theta. So anything into 1 is same. So ds 1 cos theta and pz into ds sin theta. Okay. So what are the different forces acting here? This force. So I have divided this force into two forces. So I can consider these two forces and one force. So this body is in equilibrium, so I can apply equilibrium equations which we have studied in engineering mechanics. So what are our equilibrium equations? Sigma fx is equals to 0. So when I take sigma fx is equals to 0, right side positive, left side negative. So right side is px into dy into 1. So anything into 1 you will get the same answer, so you can neglect that. Left side negative, so minus pz, there is only one left side force, so minus pz into ds into cos theta, okay, and next is equals to 0. So what is cos theta from this? So from this right angle triangle, cos theta is opposite side, so this opposite side is dx and adjacent side height is dy. So cos theta is from figure, cos theta is equals to adjacent by hypotenuse. So adjacent is dy, hypotenuse is ds. Adjacent by hypotenuse. So adjacent side is dy, hypotenuse is ds. So in place of cos theta I can substitute dy by ds. So px into dy minus pz into ds into cos theta value is dy by ds. So this ds and this ds gets cancelled. You can take dy common. So px minus pz is equals to 0. So this dy goes to the right side. What's remaining? Px minus pz is equals to 0. Px is equals to pz. So this is our equation 1. Similarly, you can apply our second equilibrium equation, which is sigma fy is equals to 0. So sigma, when I apply sigma fy is equals to 0, how many upward forces are there? Upward positive, downward negative. So when I apply sigma fy is equals to 0, upward positive, downward negative. So one upward force we have, that is py into dx, and one downward force pz into ds into sine theta is equals to 0. So what is sine theta from figure? So from figure, what is sine theta? Sine theta is equals to opposite by hypotenuse. So opposite side is this side, so the length of this side is dx and hypotenuse is ds, so dx by ds. So I can substitute the value of sine theta here. So py into dx minus pz into ds, value of sine theta is dx by ds is equals to 0. So ds gets cancelled, so dx is common, py minus pz is equals to 0. So dx you can send it to right side, so what's remaining? Py minus pz is equals to 0. So this implies py is equals to pz. This is equation 2. So from equations 1 and 2, what is equation 1? Px is equals to pz, and equation 2 is py is equals to pz. So from 1 and 2 you can say px is equals to py is equals to pz. So this is our Pascal's law. Okay, so we will continue in the next class. That's it for today.